Men that are not fit to lead have been fashioning society and men for too long, and they've swayed the opinions of culture, and we see this overflowing into media. Better men choosing to fashion and order your life before someone else decides which is the best direction that you should follow. This is the Better Man channel, where it is about men adopting the mindset to reclaim their sovereignty and to order their own steps. I've been reading Nietzsche's book, Beyond Good and Evil. And last night, I ended the chapter with this paragraph talking about the state of European society in the 19th century, which Nietzsche was observing. And he says that men who are not fit to be leaders were fashioning the order and steps of society and swaying them. And these leaders, these men, they didn't have the far-sightedness to see anything of meaning or purpose or to lead their culture in any direction. They were short-sighted and narrow-minded and inclined to follow a structure that only befitted them. And so they swayed the opinions of society in one direction that left not only society, but men dwarfed and sickly and less than. And we see that in our current affairs as men. We see an emasculation of men. We see not only men, but society being swayed and fashioned by the agendas of the higher ups, whose agenda is for expedient and instant gratification over anything meaningful and purposeful and lasting. We live in a culture that is entitled and we want it now. Instant gratification. And so we see culture and the agendas and the political arenas trying to develop a culture of what they want to push as equality. But there's a difference between equality and entitlement, right? I'm a firm believer in equality, that everybody has the equal opportunity to put into work to meet the standards of our culture so that they enjoy the privilege. That's equality. But the entitlement agenda is saying that, well, someone has this, so I deserve it as well, without putting in the work. We all want to enjoy the privilege without meeting the standard. And that is one of the agendas that is being pushed in culture today, this entitlement agenda, that everyone deserves it just because they deserve it. No one's put in the work. No one has met the standards in order to enjoy the privilege. And I'll be the first to admit that I've been there. I've grown up with that entitlement attitude of where's mine, without putting in the work, without backing it up with any work. And so we see a lot of men that have been emasculated and pushed in line without even knowing where the line's going, right? Society teaches us to go this direction and we just fall in line without even knowing where we're going. So the question becomes, can we ask ourselves, why am I doing this? Why do I believe this way? Why am I going in that direction? We need to begin to ask those questions so that we realize, is this even who I want to be? Is this something that is going to sustain my tradition, my values, my code of honor? Men that are not fit to lead have been fashioning society and men for too long, and they've swayed the opinions of culture. And we see this overflowing into media, and all the outlets that we get our information from are flooded with this ignorance and the political agendas behind the higher ups who are not fit to be swaying the opinions of culture. As men, it is time that we begin to stand up while we still have a leg to stand on before they push us down and we have to sit. We've got to begin to stand up and express the difference between right and wrong. We've got to begin to stand up and be the example of what is right. We've got to be the example of men of action, which enables society to move in a direction that lasts, that is sustainable. We see this civil unrest currently going on in our culture where everyone is pitted against each other and everyone's opinions are pitted against this opinion and that opinion. For whatever reason, the leaders, the higher ups who are leading us astray are allowing this to go on. This is a crucial time, a critical time in the nature of man, the nature of manhood, for men to truly begin to stand up and exemplify the characteristics of what it means to be a man. We don't push ourselves or allow ourselves to be pushed to the boundaries and let other people who are not fit to lead this society in a destructive direction. It is time that we begin to voice our opinions before we no longer have a voice. It is time that we begin to stand up on the legs that we have been God-given, evolution-given, Big Bang given, but we have been given the birthright as man to be those leaders, those guys that exemplify the very characteristics of what it means to lead, guide, and uphold a sustainable culture where we're not swayed and fashioned by men who have other agendas besides being conducive to a growth and meaningful, purposeful life. They're only in it for their now, what they can get now. And that's where we see our leaders currently at. We need men with an honor code who are willing to put aside their selfishness and begin to lead by example with what sustained this culture up to date. And that's knowing the difference between right and wrong. That's upholding the difference between right and wrong. That's standing up for something. In a weak culture where you're swayed and fashioned by the opinions of others, you give up your right, you give up your sovereignty, you give up your autonomy, and you just do things because that's what you've been told to do. And you no longer have the fight within you to stand for something or stand against something. You're just comfortable and you go with the flow. And then you realize it's too late to actually stand up for what you believe in because you've become this robot. And that's where we currently are in culture. We're at this tipping point where we could go either way. And there's a fine line here. Are we going to be this socialistic culture that's told what to do, so in the name of equality? Are we going to tip the scale and be a culture that believes in equality in the name of you have the right to equal opportunity to become who you want by putting in the work to meet the privilege according to the standards that you uphold? Are we going to fall in that line? Or are we going to fall in the line that just told where you need to go, who you need to be, what you need to believe? We are men, strong-willed, assertive, dominant. Unleash that masculine nature within you to stand on your 2 feet, stand up for what's right and wrong, and stand against what is wrong so the culture can be guided in a direction that it needs to be. You are called to be a man, a leader, assertive, dominant in all your ways, and exemplify the very characteristics of a conducive and meaningful, purposeful direction. I love you guys. You'll hear from me next episode.